Well, good evening all. Hopefully you can hear me all right and I'm coming through okay. Yeah, apologies for the slight delay. It got cold in here, so I just ran off to turn the heating on. Yeah, because all of a sudden I'm a little bit chilly, hence the hoodie and everything else. But good evening, happy Sunday, happy 4.7 patch week. Hope you're all doing well. It was really good to see you. Let's just change the angle of that ever so slightly. There we go, the close-up you never knew you wanted, and now you can't get out of your head. Mentioning earlier, you did, I say, well done you. Good evening to Zavath Calco, to Monster AV, Space Saga, Ray Lauderbeck, to Nero and Stack, even though you're the same person. To Chief Paranoid, to Stunner, to Blamsmith Jukester, Azza Widget, and everybody else. Good to see you all. Welcome in. Yeah, lots and lots to talk about, and not just because it is the it's the patch week, but we've had a lot of stuff brought in today. So I'm just having a look. Apparently, there's a little bit of a problem with the bit rate. How is it looking on your end? How are we doing? I don't like it when this happens. It normally means that either a router or a PC restart. How are we looking your end? Are we doing all right? Talk to me, Goose. What do we think? Looks fine to you. Okay, so because what it says at the moment is current bitrate is kind of too low, which is bizarre, beautiful, weird. Okay, cool. Well, so hopefully it'll be all right. You got to let that drop, Stunner. That's getting a little bit creepy now. Yeah. So that's where we are. We're going to talk about 4.7. Patch dropped on Wednesday, as I'm sure Thursday. Wednesday, far too late for me to do anything about it. I was in bed when I realised that it had gone live. So we got to see the Aurora Mark II and all that sort of stuff. And I've got a kind of question for you guys going into... what's the best way to put this? So I've struggled putting an Aurora video together. Obviously because, like I said to you guys, when I tried to stream it at the same time, I was like, hey, couldn't stream this, so we're going to do a video. And then, of course, because I was away at an all-day meeting the following day, by the time I'd got home, I'd had the chance to have a look at a couple other videos. And it's not normally something that I wanted to do, but normally something that I do, but I wanted to do it this time around because I'm trying to up my game across the board. I'm trying to improve the thumbnails and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, let's see what other people are doing. And what I realised very quickly... welcome in, Viper. Good to see you, and anyone else that I've missed as you've come in. I was like, well, maybe what I want to do is I want to, not necessarily always be different, but I want to see if I've got anything different to say. And I feel like people covered a lot of what I wanted to say. So I struggled with it because I feel like I'm just repeating stuff. Now, what I wanted to know from you guys is that the sort of content that you want? Do you want to see what I think about stuff, even if it's just kind of a repeat of what's been said before? Do you would you like to, only hear it if I feel like I'm saying something different or kind of outstanding to what other people are saying? I don't know. Let me know as you go through. We'll see. Because I'm not. I don't. You guys know I'm not into the habit of making content just for the sake of making content, but I've been told a fair number of times by people that actually they're quite interested in what I think on a certain subject, so maybe it's worth putting that up, and if it just confirms what other people are saying, then that means that I think that too. So I don't know, have a think, let me know, and we'll get back to it. In the meantime, what I do want to do just before we go any further is 4.7 release. For those who haven't seen the intro to the patch, the little patch trailer, here we go. Very cool shot. This is called foreshadowing. God, just one-shotting everyone with a coda. Which I think is a really cool intro into this patch. And, you know, we'll start talking through the major features and that sort of stuff. But I thought that was a really nice way to kind of, to open the patch up. So this is the rock breaker or QV breaker operation, breaker stations, whatever you want to call it. Where you go out to a station, you basically reactivate the laser, and with the rock that's in there, you bust it open, get a bunch of goodies from inside it out, and then sell them for buku cash. And there's a couple of versions of this, which is really nice as well. You've got the kind of PvP version, which is an open contract, so anyone can pick the contract up whilst you're there at any stage. You might be engaged by other people. And you have the kind of exclusive contracts, which are expensive. At the moment, I think they're about 875,000 credits to buy the exclusive rights. And I think it turns around for about 1.4 mil, depending on how good you are at getting everything out. So, yeah, there's a lot to go for there. The open contracts are Junior Contractor with Shubin Interstellar, and then the exclusive are Contractor, so one level up. You can do it, I think, with aluminium, and there's a couple of other quartz as well. So if you just get a decent sized ship full of that stuff and take it, I think you put it in like amounts of 6 or 7, maybe 8, and then you just kind of, you know, in Nix, you just Ilevsky, you just drop it into the hangar, and that's that. You just keep picking those contracts up and dropping it until you farm through enough rep to get there. We had a go with this at on our Friday Night Ops on the Discord, link to which is down below if you're interested. We had a go, and we had 2 very successful back-to-back runs on the exclusive contracts, which was really, really good. They say deserted stations, of course they really aren't. And then coming with one of the point patches in 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks' time as of 4.7, there are going to be other jobs around these as well. So you'll get to some of these stations, or maybe you'll discover them. There won't be a rock within that mining laser assembly. There'll be other stuff to do there, which is good fun. And we'll have a look at the roadmap update in a little bit, and what they've got through and what they've got prepared. So yeah, lots of stuff to do. You'll need tractor beams in there. You'll need mining lasers in there. You know, that sort of stuff. There's a fair amount to go and do. And, you know, some of the fights really aren't solo fights. I'm sure there will be people out there who'll run around solo. But one of the things we found, so we went in with, I think, about 11 people. Really, really healthy op. And yeah, there was enough loot to go around to make us all kind of feel like there was lots of loot, even though there was 11 of us. So that's really quite nice to do. And you get to the warehouse bit at the end where you get one of the final codes, and there's a couple of secure rooms, and if you look around hard enough, you'll find secure key code or 2. There's one on the dining table up in the logistics office. There's one, or there's apparently one or more on some of the bad guys, but you've got to keep your eyes peeled for them. So that was really, really good fun. Good fun to go. And then the actual activation of the mining laser, you craft stuff in there. I'm not going to give too much more away, because there is a lot more to happen, but you craft stuff in there. You have to mine through certain sections. You've got to find stuff. You've got to move stuff around. There are codes. There are buttons. There are these huge... well, again, like I say, I won't give too much away. What was really impressive is it all worked first time. And we're talking 2 days in. If you remember back to Hathor, after about the first 48 hours, they were turbo balked. And this didn't just work, it worked really smoothly, and that's really nice to see as well. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. And then a few bits out and pieces out there for us to have a look at. There's the Aurora Mark II, which we kind of had a look at the the store page stuff when it was last week. There's crafting. We'll look at that in more depth in a little while. The inventory system, I'm sure you've all got thoughts on that. So, of course, we'll talk through that as well. And then we have some war bonds. So, the Alpha Wolf and the Prospector, both $10 lower than their normal price. So, Alpha down to $110 from 120. Prospector 145 instead of 155, and then the Valkyrie 350 instead of 375. So if you're looking for a couple of ships in that kind of range to go and grab yourself some, I guess, bargains, then absolutely there's stuff out there for you. And then, of course, all of the other ships that have been added, including the dubiously priced $60 Mark 1 SE. I'm sure some people will really enjoy that, but I'm somewhat unsure myself. Rock Bracer is great, says Parker. Have you given it a try? Have you? So she says, seems like a proper raid. It's multiple stage, which is really nice. There seems to be different ways that you can get into it and move around it, all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of that kicking off. And then I go on to Spectrum, that wretched hive of scum and villainy, so you guys don't have to, because I'm nice like that. And here we go, going through, there's not much in here to be fair, but what I really kind of like, so you've got these things called refractors. Okay, so you've basically got to set the whole station up, align it all, activate it all back on, and then go. And what's also really, really cool is if you don't want to do every single little bit, you don't have to. So you don't have to power it on and realign everything to 100%. When you go to where you activate the laser, you'll see a screen. It will tell you how much, and I think the maximum you get is like 99%. It's like 99% effectiveness. But you can do less. So because there are multiple things you have to move around and do, if they don't all work, or for some reason they don't spawn in and you've only got some of it, it's not a 100% wasted trip. You can still mine out some of the rock. And again, that's quite a nice phrase. Oh, sorry, quite a nice idea for them to do. So yeah. And then of course there's crafting and everything else. Yeah. That train is a lot faster in the video. It really, really is. That train is. We did the train section, and again, that's not giving anything away because you saw it in the trailer, but it felt a lot more like the what do you call it? The minecart bit from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I'm showing my age here, but it felt much like that. It felt like there would be another cart catching us up and we'd have to shoot them and, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, very cool. Making a collector's edition $15 more than the highest Aurora or even the highest Mark II was an interesting choice. It really was. It really was. I'm sure you share your opinions with plenty of people. I value your opinion, not theirs, even if they're lying. Well, I appreciate that, Widget. In that case, I'll look to do something. Doesn't the Kraken have this type of train? Apparently, possibly, maybe. That'd be cool. But there we go. Yeah, so Rockbreaker, a really nice event. And of course, if you're sat there going, well, it's really good, but this gameplay is out of reach for me because I don't game with a lot of people. The same start time as today, every Friday we do org up. So I'm sure for the next couple, we'll be doing this sort of stuff. And like I said, 11, really healthy number to go and do this. And with the exclusive contract, whilst it doesn't guarantee that you don't bump into anyone, they must come and find you. And that is, the key thing. So they have to know where the station is. There's no just finding it. They are mission locations only, which is cool. Audio team killed it in the breaker station, says Widget. Firing the laser couldn't sound more like 300 odd negative precision equipment if they tried. Visually, audibly, they did such a good job. I thought maybe ASD was going to be either the peak or an anomaly, and they've just kept going. Whilst it doesn't have that really strong horror vibe that pulled me in with ASD, once again, their location design is amazing. I'll go back to that image. That arc there is something else, and you find out that that's more than just eye candy. There's a lot on this that you go around and do different bits at and on and all that sort of stuff. Also, the exterior tram, we've already nicknamed it the Vomit Comet because rather than a very smooth motion, it gets to one point and just flips 90 degrees and just kind of rotates. And it's intentional. That's what they mean for it to do. But you kind of sit on it going, "Ugh," when it happens. It's a bit rough. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. Put it this way, I'm kind of glad I didn't do it in VR the first time round because holy moly, that would have been uncomfortable. But yes. So I mean, that's probably the best way to describe it. Is Stamp's first paragraph there. The Cougar Belt has been quiet for 300 years but not forgotten. Abandoned QV breaker stations dot the asteroid fields of Nix, the colossal rock cracking machinery sitting dormant and untouched. Shubin Interstellar is offering exclusive or shared access rights to anyone willing to go in and wake them back up, and the rare and remarkable resources locked inside make it worth the effort. Yes, flying into an asteroid to mine it out is very, very cool. Jabba, hello mate, welcome in, good to see you. Yeah, very, very cool. And yeah, the audio team killed it there. They also, I think, killed it with the Aurora, with one exception. There's one notable bit, and I was going to put it in the video, and I was like, this is like peak whinging because it's such a minor thing. But if you have the experience that I have, you'll go, as in, and that's not like a, oh, I've got experience of games. What I mean is there's a certain thing I do in real life that many of us do in real life that makes it more uncomfortable than it should be. So I'll leave that for the video. I'll leave that for the video. Hello, Single Track. Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. So yeah, there we go. And then, of course, there is crafting. Before we get onto that, let's just have a look at the FAQ stuff, because often there's stuff buried in here that you need to kind of know as you go through. Yeah, how do I find one? Don't bother checking the star map. As I've said, they won't appear there. The only way is through a contract. Accept the rights contract in your Mobiglass. Available Shubin, as we said, right? This is all the stuff that I've covered. Can I replay? Yes, you absolutely can. Now, can you solo it? Now, I would suggest with the combat stuff, if you're slow and methodical and you're pretty good at PvE, I think you could solo the combat side of it, no problem. The problem is going to come when it comes to mining the interior. You'd also have to be good at managing a mole with multiple laser heads solo. And that's not particularly easy either. Some of the rocks are very, very sensitive, and some of them you absolutely are not getting through, regardless of whatever your prospector build is. You need a mole to go up and kind of advance through that, or you need a group of prospectors. So soloing, yes, right up until the end. It's possible. You know, it's also very expensive, but it's possible. So there we go. So shared rights. Other players may be working the same site. Exclusive rights, it's all you. So there we go. They're available. So those shared mining rights contracts are available from the service stations and the other locations as well. And it says there, this is an interesting point. I didn't realize this. If you're after a quieter run at a QV breaker station, it might be worth traveling a little further afield to pick up your contract. So if you go to that one people's service station that's a real pain to get to because it's in the middle of buttfuck nowhere and you know all that sort of stuff, then if you go there and pick up that contract, it sounds like from this that's going to be different to other stuff, and there we go. So there we go. Designed for groups of 4 to 6 players. Like I said, we did it with 11. It was, you know, it wasn't a challenge with 11 of us. Not really. The challenge came from finding it. The firefights themselves weren't exceptionally tough. There's a couple of times people got downed, you know, just kind of got jumped by a couple of players at the same time. AI is definitely getting better, but even with 11 players, like I said, we were all at the end going, has anyone got space for this? Has anyone got space for that? And that was kind of cool. PvP isn't the focus, although you can't speak for the general lawless of the verse. Yeah, fine, whatever. So yeah, what rewards can I expect? FPS lootable items, loads of them, and that's really cool. What's also cool is one of the crafted items, and again, I won't give it away, but you craft these really rather large items. You can store them. So we ended up, don't ask me how, with 4 rather than the 3 that we needed. So I've got one in my hangar as hanger flare. So, which is kind of cool. So yeah, hopefully that persists between patches, but if not, I'm going to go back and steal some more. So there we go. Helmet, FPS mining tool, tractor beam tool, combat loadout, med pens or med guns, and a nimble mining ship. Exactly that. And there are multiple different ways in, all that sort of stuff, and it takes you through all of those. I'm not going to go through that too much, but generally speaking, get in, explore, restore power, then reset the station, go and find the stuff you need to set the laser up, which includes a little bit of fabrication, fire the laser, and then mine the asteroid out. So there we go. Once operational power is restored, you can pursue additional steps to supercharge the laser before firing. How you do this is up to you to find out. In other words, once it's powered on, you can fire there, but it's not going to be particularly lucrative. Sidarics is something that's used within the crafting inside the thing, which is kind of good. Good to Hey Luna, good to see you. And to anyone else I haven't said hello to. Oh, how tough the NPC would have been if this was instance. Really interestingly, socially, we said this, or I said this the following day, because by the time we finished our second run, it was really early in the morning, and I was struggling more so than normal to string a sentence together. We actually said if someone had said to us at the end of that was stealth instancing, I wouldn't have been surprised. It was that smooth. It was that smooth. It was things run. There wasn't the delay when there wasn't any sort of delay when you did stuff. This is a Friday evening, so normally it's 9 p.m. UK time. Well, by the time we got there, it was 10 p.m. UK time, so it was even 5 p.m. kind of East Coast US, and it was buttery smooth. It was really, really good. So there we go. Bring some friends. Do the optional steps. Cargo space also useful. So there we go. Okay. After that, as they say here, there'll be more stuff, and that's what we talked about a little earlier on. So yeah. Gamers don't read, it seems, says Widget. You're not kidding. I did Rock Breaker the first night with one friend. We then replayed it with 8 last night without saying anything, so they could experience it. Watching their decision making was really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. It's really good, and if this is, I said this all the way back with ASD, right? When we got hold of the engineering wing, and we were running through, and we were moving we were repairing pipes, and we were putting the big plasma canisters into the silos where the adult Valacar spawns. I said at that point, if this is the way forward that they're going to go, if this is how they're going to run like puzzles and in-game kind of like physical puzzles, holy moly, I'm going to be impressed, and I've not been disappointed. It's really, really nice. So yeah. And then we have crafting. If anyone's not got any questions about Rock Breaker, like I said, I just wanted to say again to you guys, if you are interested in doing Rock Breaker, whatever it's called now, and you want to be part of that, and you don't have a group, join the Discord, link in the description below. Come join us in the Discord, we'll take you around, and it'll be a lot of fun to kind of take people around it. Okay, and we do tend to make sure when we've got people experiencing it the first time, we slow down so you can actually see what's going on. You get to be the one to press the button and all that sort of stuff. So we do kind of make sure that your first experience in Rock Breaker will be as enjoyable as it can be. Okay, so great fun, says Blam. Good, I'm glad you enjoyed it, mate. So here we go. Crafting then. They've released the crafting guide on the website, and it's easy to find, but if anyone wants the link, I'm sure I can pop it into chat towards the end of the stream. There's a lot of information in here, and this is quite interesting to see. I'm sure you guys have already, if you might have been doing your normal contracts, and accidentally picked up some blueprints, but there are lots of contracts out there now where you go and you find that in the description there's the statement along the lines of this may give you some blueprints, and you can just repeat them. What's really cool that we've been doing today, we had a coffee and blueprints morning where we were all doing whatever we were doing in the game, but we were all sharing all our contracts. So not only we were sharing a little bit of rep, we were all getting contracts for stuff that we weren't doing. So that's kind of cool as well. So yeah, yeah, the barbecue. Let's not talk about the barbecue. Okay, so crafting. Has anyone, in fact, here we go. Let's try this with a first question. Let's try this. Let's ask people, have you tried crafting yet? Give that a go. See where people are. I'd be really interested to see who's tried it, and then after that, I'm going to ask the obvious questions of, what do you think? Where do we go? What happens? But whilst we're answering that, for those that aren't aware, for those that haven't tried, given the fact that at the moment I can see 81% of you have said no, materials now, generally speaking, the ones that you mine or harvest have a quality attached to them, and that's on a scale from 0 to 1,000. More on that later. But the quality, and this scale is a quality, right? So 0 obviously is dog poop, and 1,000 is the dog's danglies, right? The mutts nuts. So apologies, this became very anatomy focused very quickly. My bad. But that's that, okay? And obviously, the higher quality you get, the better stats you'll get when you craft something, okay? You're able to craft some very basic items when you start, for example, like the P4AR. And as you can see here, what they want is 4 CSCU of aluminium, 2 of fastenite, 2 of iron. Okay, and then depending on the qualities, it will show you down here what it is that you are crafting. So use what's the word you do? Substandard quality. You're not going to get as good. If everything's really good quality, you should get a fairly solid weapon with some significant improvements over if you just went to buy the stuff from a store, right? Honorable Dodger, welcome in. Good to see you. Just searching for blueprints. Yeah, we've done a lot of that today. Haven't had time yet to try the patch. Viper, I think, mate, you are going to be pleasantly surprised, depending on how you get on with inventory. More on that in a second. Okay, I tend to wait a few days to a week after the patch drops before I log in. My games tend to be smoother that way. Yeah, so the first day that I logged in, so I logged in very briefly in the morning before going to work, just 10 minutes. I just wanted to see what the inventory system looked like. And it was, not only was I downloading new shaders during that time, but it was very, very jumpy. Following that, Thursday evening, after no hotfix whatsoever, it was really nice, really smooth. Crafting takes dedication on the mining side for sure. It'll be interesting if you see player trading become the norm. Widget says, what I was most impressed with is the context clues. Phenomenal job of indicating what you need to do without just telling you, for instance, the minables and the ice caves. Yeah. Sorry, that's back to rock break, but yes, absolutely. Ziggs, welcome in. Good to see you. Don't have any blueprints that excite me to do any crafting. No, I get that. What's really interesting on that is if you go to ASD, the ASD suit of armor. So even if that's not your thing in terms of armor, it might be something to earn you some credits if that's your thing. Reebok Raid says, have you noticed they haven't added refining worse resources into better ones, which I think is going to come with the future alloying tech? Yeah, so they talked a little bit about alloys in terms of adding carbon from iron to make steel. The other really interesting thing, I'd be interested to know, Widget, did you spot this in Rock Breaker, was in the logistics room on the walls, there are a bunch of crates set out very much like they were supposed to be in the distribution centers when they showed that video off the idea of you stealing resources and you pulling stuff down. Those boxes can be moved and they're full of steel. So we got the tractor beams out, started moving it all around. And at the moment, it doesn't look like there's a way to get it out of there, but they are boxes that you can move around and they contain steel. So maybe that information is useful to someone. I don't know. People might be going, Badgers, that's been in the game for ages, and I might just be the first time I've spotted it, and that's cool too. So yeah, do you know if it affects if quality affects crafted ammo? So not at the moment, I don't think. What I think, so crafting ammo, I don't believe it improves damage and stuff like that. What I think it does is the higher quality ammo that you use, the less chance it has, or the slower it affects the durability of a weapon, and the longer you'll be firing before you experience things like misfires and stuff like that. So if you're out on a long trip, that's my understanding. That's what we talked about. I don't have a source for that, but that is my understanding of what they're planning to do. So yeah. Cisco, welcome in. Good to see you. Crafted a chest with worst mats and another with best mats. Base system. Is there a new best home base system? Oh, sorry. The chat jumped and I missed that. Right, let's start again. Cisco says, crafted a chest with worst mats, another with best mats, buffer, armor pen, and operating temp range. Interesting. Thanks, Cisco. That's really nice. Jukester says, giving all the new gameplay loops, is there a new best home base system? I'm currently based out of ArtCorp. So ArtCorp's where I'm based at the moment. I would suggest, so there's a problem with Orison, which if this sort of thing doesn't bother you, might make Orison quite good now. But the problem is that there's music in the hangar and it's really damn loud. And apparently it's from the ship shop in Microtech. But yeah, really, and it doesn't happen anywhere else. It's just when you are in your major landing zone hangar, there's loud music. You know, like how the hangar is loud? That loud. Right? So, other than that, what I will say is that I chose ArtCorp when I did the best systems video, the tier list for landing zones. ArtCorp made sense because you were instant and you were also very close to Pyro, and Pyro being bigger, that proximity makes sense. What I'd say now is, while ArtCorp is great for Pyro, it's also the worst for Levski and Nyx, right? Because you are 95 gigamooses away from whatever GM stands for, gigamooses away from the Nyx jump gate. So Crusader being halfway between the two, if your PC's happy, if you're quite happy with that planet and flying down to it, and just how long it seems to take to quantum from one side of it to the other, if you're doing a slingshot around the planet, then Crusader might be a really good choice. Maybe I need to update that video. We can have a look. I use Checkmate says socially. I love me some Pyro. But yeah, really good question, Jukester. That's thank you for that. So yeah, just catching that up. Sorry, my bad. Well, if you add one STU 300 quality iron and one STU 600 quality iron, you should be able to use a catalyst and an additive product to get 1.5 SCU of quality 500 iron. Yeah, we'll see. I think I'm hoping that sort of stuff will happen. There's also maybe that will be something that gets punted down the line, because it's very easy to kind of anticipate that when what's the word I'm looking for, with things like science and research, all the labs and like the large hadron collider or the small hadron collider and stuff on the Endeavour and stuff like that, and the science version of the Reliant, that sort of stuff, they could create like catalysts or whatever that enable crafting to go better and that sort of stuff. So you can see how that's going to start to link in as well, right? You just add a catalyst slot and then it temporarily improves quality for a couple of uses. So they've got something that they can churn out on a regular basis, that becomes useful to players and gives science kind of like a meaningful place in the verse. And of course that can work for a bunch of other stuff as well, right? So yeah, that'll be really cool. Yeah, so there we go. High quality Dolovine can improve damage of the Gallant and Arclight. Interesting. Because Dolovine, if you go to the refineries, they've got some of the gems there, and they've got little explanation cards as to why that gem is useful in the UEE. I wonder if that's what the Dolovine card says there, because if so, that'd be kind of cool. Blue Lacquer, welcome in. Good to see you. Gigameters, yeah. We either go for Gigamooses or there's another one that's slightly ruder. But we won't use that one. Badges, have you been to Pyro this patch? Mine is everywhere now. It has increased material quality. I haven't, no, but I'm pleased that there is some use for Pyro. I'm sure it will bring with it its increase in PvP, but that's the whole point of this system. If you're mining in Pyro, please don't whinge, because that's what it's for. So there we go. Increased risk, increased reward, right? So there we go. I'd love a blueprint for the rough SMG, says socially. Crafting can be fully implemented, can't be fully implemented until base building comes in its most basic form. Yeah, I mean, so crafting, I think, minus the placing, which isn't really a crafting thing, it's a base building thing. You know, I think they can get that in. It's just going to be very, very different, right? Because they're like the automatic build of structures and stuff from like the Starlancer build and the graph cart that they're going to bring out. That sort of stuff is not necessarily crafting in of itself. You put the mats in, sure, but then it's kind of automated and you walk away from it and it takes hours and hours and hours. And, you know, they could have done that through a very different system. But yeah, so I think I think they can get to the point with crafting where you go and do base building and there's no surprises other than the ability to use the drones to look down and place buildings and that sort of stuff. But yeah, so that's that. Okay, so blueprints then, when you start out, you get very few blueprints. I think you get the Arclight pistol or something. It might be the S38. You get the P4. You get some very basic armor. I think it's the recon stuff, the field recon armor, and there's not much else on top of that. But as you go through, you'll be able to do that. Now, what you need to do is you need to go to one of the refinery stations to find a fabricator. I don't know where else, if there's extra places, but I picked mine up as a refinery station. You pick up the fabricator, you buy it as you would do anything else in the store. It gets put in your hangar, and then this thing's like a big, like a long, slightly chonkier 2SU crate, as tall as you, if not slightly taller. And you bring it up in your hangar. It attaches to the cargo grid, so you can put it in your ship as long as it fits. All that sort of stuff, and then you go from there. And once you open it up to access it, you get this, which is all of your blueprints. Okay. It says here, in Alpha 4.7, the available blueprints focus on FPS weapons and armor, including many variants of base items you may already be familiar with. It's also important to note that, like many aspects of continuing development of Star Citizen, blueprints requirements are subject to changes in future patches as the system evolves and expands to include additional gameplay loops like refining, salvage, and research, as well as the inclusion of newer blueprints. Okay, so all that sort of stuff. Rebot Raid says Tier 0, Tier 1, maybe since that's portable and ship crafting, Tier 2, Pioneer, and medium bases, and Tier 3, big bases and stations. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. So in terms of, yes, we won't be crafting ships necessarily until we get the big stuff in, like the Pioneer. And seeing as the Pioneer will likely coincide with the release of base building, if not slightly later, then yes, 100%. Yeah, I get that. And then, yeah, I think the stations is going to be like crafting DLC, right? Except we won't be paying for it. It's going to be that sort of stuff. I think stations are so far down the line that it's not even silly. If I can scavenge materials and just FPS gems, I can live my scavenger gems. So socially, you can certainly scavenge bits. And at the moment, so I did some salvaging today with some ships that had supplies in the back. They all said 0 quality, right? So they're not the sort of stuff you want to nick for crafting. They're intended, obviously, to sell. As they go on and update the very, very old now loot tables for ships and players and everything else, because it's not even like loot tables on a lot of these things. It's they talked about, I can't remember what they said. They called it a very strange name in the video in the FPS Q&A. But basically, these things are that they have default loadouts, effectively loot loadouts. You notice how you go to certain guys and they're always carrying the same thing, and that guy's always carrying that weapon. It's that. And that's why every time I've gone, for example, and emptied out, a nomad or whatever, a freelancer, they always have the same loot in the back. There's always some nitrogen in the back. There's always some titanium in the back. There's iron and aluminium and tin and copper, and that's it. It's always the same materials in the same quantities because it's not reading a loot table. It's told this is what's in the back. As they advance and improve that system and make it so that it actually reads a table, you might get quality, and your scavenger dream mate will be right there, which is kind of cool. Giga Melvins, Zavith, I'm not saying that out loud, but you have it, sir. Yeah. So there you go. I think there's a blueprint for the Ripper SMG. That would be cool. If we can find out where that is, that'd be awesome. Luna says, in Elite, I mine the most player active system for the added risk. I love the tension of potential attacks, so looking forward to pyro mining. Nice, good stuff. Any industrial equipment shop is where you get them usually. Yep, so you might get them in some other places as well. Certainly in places like Nick and that way, there are no stations with refining. It's all in the major landing zone itself. I was not aware you needed to buy a fabricator. I had one already in my hangar inventory, says Ziggs. Yes, so if you don't have one in your hangar inventory, you'll need to go and find one and buy it. The reward for the Alliance aid isn't there yet, I don't think. Rebot Raid says you'll be able to build your own refineries and crafting stuff from the bases instead of go to loaner stations for deep space bases. Yeah, and that gameplay, obviously the refinery stuff will change, I think, with the Expanse. Because they talked about the refining in the Expanse being an active process as opposed to what we're seeing in stations right now. So that'll be cool. Because why would you create that gameplay loop if all you did is the same you did on stations? Why would you buy an entire ship just to duplicate what you could do on stations? So they'll bring something else in for that. I was thinking of breaking down the items I scavenge, but that also, yeah, absolutely, that works too, mate. So is there a site where I can see to get the bullet points? Yeah. So I'll let you guys have a look at that. So there we go. We also have, here we go, item fabricator. This is the thing that they're talking about here. You have the panel on this side. This here is the kind of console that you use that gives us that screen. And then you have this opens. There's a button on the side to open it where you can pop your materials in and all that sort of good stuff. Or I think you can use it just from the cargo grid that it's on. So here we go. Item fabricator. This is your crafting machine. Moving an item fabricator can easily be done via tractor beam and attaches easily to cargo grids, allowing them to be placed in certain ships for crafting on the go, and serves as your primary interface, accessing your blueprint library and the crafting process as a whole. Okay. Oh, so the Lifeline event, it looks like they're in. If you participated in the recent Lifeline event for Levski, you may already have one waiting for you, which would explain where yours came from, Ziggs. So there we go. Inside the item fabricator is a cargo grid which can be used for the input and output of resources and items. However, when placed within your hangar, the unit has access to your local inventory as well, which is really cool. At present, there are two functions, crafting and dismantling. So crafting, then. Yeah, you go to your blueprints, you select what you want, it pops up on the right-hand side, and then when you come to each individual item, you can select manually from the list on the left-hand side as to precisely what it is that you want to include, or which quality of that material that you want. Okay. Once that's all done, as you muck around with this, you'll see at the bottom right-hand side, so this is a P4AR, and just in case you can't see that, because that is not, I can't really get much closer to that, unfortunately. But it basically says fire rate. Okay, so base stat is 810 rounds per minute. This one is at 907, so 97 rounds more per minute. Impact force, plus 7.5%. That's basically damage on hit, right? Recoil kick, minus 60%. Recoil smoothness, 60% increase. And recoil handling, also a 60% increase. So it looks like the max stats here because you can see it's got 1,000 quality in each slot. Obviously, all these details are subject to change. Okay, and there's also dismantling, and it says here, this is what you're going to get out of it. You're going to get aluminium, hafasnite, and iron at these quantities and at these qualities. So there you go. Your scavenger dream exists quite nicely. My husband fights pirates while I mine. We want that dynamic here as well. Yeah, absolutely. Using yourself almost as a trap there, Luna. I like it. Um, you are the bait, man. If they need to show the fab, they can fit it through a tiny door on the Hermes. Yes. Yes, it can. 100%. They already nerfed those numbers on that screenshot for the effects percent in a hotfix. Yeah, I'm sure they did. That seems pretty significant. Okay. So that's where we are at the moment. Okay. Now, here's what they say, okay, about the future. So, general expansion, additional items, including but not limited to vehicle components and weapons, integration with base building for crafting entire vehicles, additional stats for all craftable items to provide increased variety and customization, catalysts, optional items which unlock benefits when included in crafting jobs. So, I didn't read that when I mentioned about catalysts. It was just such an obvious thing for them to do. NPC shops pay more for higher quality materials. Crafted gear may be looted from select NPCs or found in crates. Dismantling this loot will result in appropriate quality values on the materials, which is kind of cool. Player trading will support transactions of quality materials and crafted items. And base building will add additional support for player-operated stores and advertisements, which is a really nice thought. I think that's kind of cool. That's an exciting thing to do for crafters. That's kind of cool. I was thinking the 60% was tad high. Yeah, 100%. Bob, welcome in. Is it an oversight that mining missions give blueprints, but salvage missions do not? Possibly. Although, obviously, mining is building and salvage is deconstruction. So maybe in the future, you'll be able to deconstruct something and maybe that generates a blueprint. I'm sure at the moment, they've just opted not to do it. But you're right, might be right. It might be an oversight. Blueprint acquisition. Blueprints can be granted from physical datapads discovered in the verse. Datapads are a one-time use and can be sold or gifted to other players before use, which is kind of cool. They'll also be granted via reputation rewards and be purchased from NPC stores. Okay, so the ones that you get, obviously, as a mission reward, you just have that. But that's kind of cool. The datapad thing is really, really nice. Has anyone found a datapad yet? I guess it's talking about the future, right? So maybe not yet, but I don't know. I'd be guessing they might just be rare. So most crafted items will have tiers 1 to 3, while vehicles will expand to 5. So higher tier items increase stat ranges, as you would expect. Okay, and higher tier blueprints have more complex requirements. I'm sure that's not a surprise to anyone. And increasing a blueprint's tier requires the player to complete research tasks. I like that it's not just press a button, wait an amount of time for a bar to fill up, and then it happens. The idea of research tasks is kind of cool. Obviously, no real detail on what that means, but there we go. Items can be upgraded from one tier to the next using a specialist upgrading blueprint. These upgraded items will have access to increased stat ranges, and it should be more efficient to craft a higher tier item from scratch than it is to upgrade a tier 1 item up to its maximum. In other words, just crafting a tier 3 is going to be better cheaper than crafting a tier 1 and then improving it to tier 2 and then improving it to tier 3. Yeah, which is kind of cool. Hey, Ken, good to see you. So, dedicated Blueprint Library app. New folder style management for materials of the same type, which are different quality, and ability to split and merge resource containers within the inventory where the quality averages out. Interesting. So, average quality. Yeah, what's becoming really apparent, and I don't know if you can see it from there straight away, is just the idea of inventory management and just making this more streamlined is kind of crazy. They do have here, if you look at the top, autofill empty slot with best material or worst material. So you can just go, give me the best. Like I'm not interested. I don't want to do all the clicking. Just give me the best. Or maybe it's a task to craft 20 of something to research a blueprint, for example, or upgrade a blueprint. So you go, well, I don't want to use the best stuff. I'm just making 20 of them, so I'll go worst. So that's quite a nice touch as well. So let's have a look. That's the interface. Item functionality, degradation, and repair. Okay, I think this is going to upset some people. Let's just go into it. Without items degrading and needing to be replaced, the crafting economy is much less appealing to crafters, due to crafting your item once and never needing a new one. Items will degrade with use. Degradation impacts functionality. Items can be repaired to restore some functionality. Every repair reduces maximum functionality of the item. Low functionality, more malfunctions. If you've played Tarkov, this is not unfamiliar to you. So this is kind of autofill doesn't work for best or worst, says Reebok. It's a shame, but hopefully they'll get that fixed fairly quickly. We've got 2 point patches coming up, and we'll talk about those in a little while, so maybe it'll be one of those. Items will get damaged. Items can be repaired to restore integrity. Item recovery and claiming will not reset functionality on items. Okay, so you can't just use item claim to get back max functionality items, and that makes sense too, because you can't have the top one without the bottom, right? Item recovery and claiming, will not reset functionality on items. Pledge items are still subject to degradation, repair, and maintenance, but will never become permanently unusable. Okay, and paths to restore complete functionality of pledge items will be available. So that's kind of cool. Like that. That makes sense. So in other words, pledge items aren't like an easy win. You don't just buy it and then never have to deal with the stuff. It's still going to go. It sounds like paths to restore complete functionality. Sounds like it's not just going to be an easy like one-step thing. You're gonna have to work for it. So yeah. What are we thinking there? The pledge stuff is really important, says Reebok. It is. Because this is people pay for this stuff, do you know what I mean? Not become permanently unusable. Hang on, which bit are we talking about? Yeah, can become unusable until you restore it to complete functionality. Paths to restore complete functionality will be available. So yes. That bit. So you can restore it. So there we go. I buy pledge stuff. So much shiny stuff to empty my wallet this month, I said yesterday. Absolutely. I hope they don't drag their heels on making the skins available from my hanger pledge items. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there's some stuff that's going to remain exclusive. I was a little bit shocked that you could craft the ASD stuff, right? It's just like some stuff it feels like needs to be found. They've talked about that, I think, with blades, right? There's going to be like some hyper effective blades from either using lost tech or that have been no longer manufactured. The company went bust, and those will be things that can only be found. And I think that element to it needs to be kept as well. Oh, we've just done this one, or have we? No. Any item attained via pledge will be a tier 1 quality item. Pledge items will never degrade to 0. So there you go. If it has a unique livery, the owner receives a cosmetic paint item. The cosmetic paint allows you to apply that livery. You do not receive the blueprint to craft the original item itself. This must still be earned in-game, and pledge items cannot be traded or dismantled. So what's really interesting there, I don't know how you stop them from being traded. How do you stop them from being traded? Unless you're planning to not remove the that you can't loot people. But nothing stops me going, hey, give me 800,000 credits and I'll give you this thing. So it comes through on my Mobiglass, and then I go, okay, great, and I drop it. Unless they mean not permanent, as in you can't transfer ownership. as in, when I give you a pledge item, you don't get the opportunity to get it back. You don't suddenly get reclaim, unless that's what they mean. That further explanation was required, I think. Only works for the owner. That would be interesting. I'm so glad to read that section. CIG has a difficult line to walk, not to screw the backers, but on the flip side, not to screw those who only bought a starter pack. What they're proposing is great. Good, I'm glad you like it. Account bound. The question is how you do account bound when I can just drop something, right? Because here's the danger with account bound is, let's say, for example, there's three of us. One of us is downed and they're the only one with a med gun. Right? So now the other two go, well, if you hadn't bought it, I could have taken it off your body and I could have used it on people, but I can't because it's account bound. And there's the difference. Unless again they're not planning to allow people to loot stuff. Crafting vehicles. Functional dedicated in-vehicle crafting machines. The ability to input out both materials and items using the vehicle cargo grids. Cool. That feels like that's the section that says we have no idea how this is going to work. Here are the design goals. There's not a lot of detail in there. So food to craft items like rations. So these additional fabricators, which is really cool, means your kitchen now is effectively or your galley on your ship is going to be a fabricator. Medical crafters or fabricators and construction fabricators, which is the grav cart, the build, the whatever the small CSV thing is, the fabricator one, CSVF, is it? So there we go. And someone asked about salvage. Maybe this is the answer we're looking for. Construction materials split into the refined materials that vehicles are made out of. Select materials are exclusive to this message. Method. E.g., salvaging alien ships to get alien materials. Like that a lot. Like the alien metals bit. That's cool. And then the refining system, a new system creates alloys and composite materials. In other words, no longer converting iron into iron ore, but into iron ore primary and carbon secondary. Primary input determines the quality, and the quality of the secondary input determines how much of it is needed. Nice touch. I like that a lot. It's a really nice touch. Allow use of things like creature harvestables to create new materials in a grounded and believable manner. Nice. Add unlockable blueprints required for select exotic materials. Again, very cool. And what I like about this is this is being treated as a whole gameplay loop in and of itself. They've mentioned, yes, they'll need a trading system, and that was mentioned earlier on, right? Is that there'll be stuff, and the ability to trade and that sort of stuff. Did I miss that? No, I didn't. I did read that out. So that'll be cool, but they're treating this whole thing like the crafting from start to finish is in a whole gameplay loop of itself, and then it's a gameplay loop you can then sell to other players, right? So there is a reason to continue to craft something because you have a quality rating out of it, and I'm sure that will contribute in some way to improving blueprints and stuff, and that makes sense, right? You want to get really good at building furniture, you build a lot of furniture, for example, in the real world. Yeah, you want to get good at building models. Use my hobby as an example. You build a lot of models. There is obviously natural talent involved. There's obviously having a good teacher and knowing what you're doing. And there are some people who just have an eye for this stuff. But what's common to all of them is the really good model builders have been building models for a long time and they built a lot of them. So same crafting, and that makes a lot of sense. So there we go. They say trading and dismantled, not that they can't be looted. Well, that's my point. Give me 800k, then shoot me and take the gun. That's trading, right? Give me 800k in the Mobiglass app, and then I'll drop the gun for you and it's yours. I think what they're talking about potentially there is the transfer of ownership. So the idea with pledge items, you'll always be able to get them back. This, not so much. There we go. Alien metal upgraded Cuddy Black would be interesting to see, especially if they're going to add some sort of vision to it, Reebok, something like that. That would be very cool. I would have just given the blueprint for the item, pledge only version with skin, so they still have to work for the usual stuff, and then make you get one for free and have to class it if it's lost. What's interesting is I think, and I'll look to Can and everyone else that was at the CitizenCon with me. Didn't they initially say pledge items would come with a blueprint? Because they've dialed back on that now. So there we go. In an early tech preview of crafting, someone said they had salvage material as a material for some components, so it may come soon. Yeah, you can already refine. So the construction rubble, construction whatever it is, pieces, shards, can be refined. I've got that happening in the game at the minute as we speak. So there we go. In a rack pack video games, I'm a pack rat in video games. I'm the person who's going to mass craft one item at a time and go sell 700 Atlas Flames when that comes out. Nice. Yes, they did, and they should do since they're separate hard-coded items, and they shouldn't be able to back out of it once it's said. Yeah, I mean, I'll try and find the video. I mean, I suppose I could do it now, right, and see if we can put this to bed right here. But I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they said. Let's have a look. And I've just flashbanged myself again. Good for me. Good for me. Let's have a look. Right, Star Citizen. Sorry, just talk quietly amongst yourselves while I'm mucking around in here. It was the 2954 or 2953 one. 2954. Associated Universe, Brave New Worlds. Which was the one with crafting in it? Does anyone remember? Let's have a look. CitizenCon 2954. So it was the Stars My Destination, wasn't it? Gameplay loops, player versus player, fighting for a purpose. Or was it? Hang on. Sorry, so I'm just having a look through. I'm gonna have to find the normal, kind of timestamp thing that someone puts in. There's a lot more stuff that's even more stupid when we give them a blueprint for it, and they still follow through the stupidest stuff. Salvage mats were on the ship weapon recipes. Interesting. It was during a Star Citizen live. Yeah, I mean they definitely. I'm pretty sure they said it in the right. It's not there. Oh, was it the base building bit? I can't remember. I can't remember. Crafting your home. Here we go. So let's see if we've got. It's taking a while. Industrialized base building. Crafting process. Here we go. I found something. Here we go. Finding resources. Refining. Autofill. All that sort of stuff. Item fabrication. Crafting machines. Crafting machines. Crafting machines. Crafting. Scan the future. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Have a look.
And how it will change the game moving forward. As you all know, we have a lot of items in the game, and they all require their own unique blueprints. That means our aim is to have more than 1,000 blueprints.
Bear with me a second, because I think... Here we go. I was going to say, I thought there was a bit separately. He's not explaining blueprints.
Some blueprints will be challenging to find. The first step in the crafting process.
Let's just go back to the beginning, shall we? Let's just go back to the beginning. We're at the back of this, aren't we, Ken?
I'm Torsten, lead system designer of the CGP system design team.
Bless him.
We now saw all elements of crafting looked at individually. Let's bring them in order how you,
Hey, Stassi.
as the player, will experience the crafting profession. You will
Can you
start
link
with
it, Widge?
acquiring the correct blueprints as the first step in the crafting process. As Jacob already mentioned, blueprints can be acquired in multiple ways. Let me give you some examples here. You can purchase commonly available blueprints, earn them from reputation and mission rewards, or even find them in loot crates. All content in our game could reward you with a blueprint. Some blueprints will be challenging to find, so players working together may find them easier to acquire. While you may find a blueprint on a datapad or other portable device, the blueprint itself is not a physical item. You don't collect them in a box or stack them on a bookshelf. Blueprints are digital. Once you claim one, it is permanently added to your personal library. This library is persistent to your character, and every blueprint you claim is yours forever.
Right, you might get a
They
little bit
cannot
of
be
audio
stolen
crossover.
or
Give us a
traded
second.
once claimed. But it does not
Right, I
just
caught it.
end with acquiring blueprints. Those tiers of quality that Jacob mentioned are unlocked through blueprint research. Research requires a research data bank which can upgrade your blueprints. Upgrading here means that you unlock a blueprint that allows you to create a better, higher tier version of the same item using more advanced materials.
Okay, so that's that. I've just found the question within this. So the question is, if you pledge for a ship, will you receive a blueprint to craft it? I've just hit the timestamp, and this is what they had to say.
Pledge for a ship. Will you receive a blueprint to craft it?
If you buy a car from the dealer, can you make more? No, you cannot. Pledging a ship does not give you the blueprint to craft it. You got to earn that like everybody else.
Fair enough. I was wrong. They didn't say that, which is good. I mean, it's good that they're kind of going down that route. But fine, yes, that makes sense. Happy with that. And now we can ditch that. We don't need that one. So yeah, happy with that. That makes sense. Yeah, misremembered by me. I thought they did. They said you did get it. Clearly you don't. So that's kind of cool. And actually, I'm kind of happy that they didn't go down that route. So yeah, there we go. So it is consistent. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, okay. So, do you know what? Sometimes it's nice getting to be a little bit smug. And I get to be a little bit smug with the next roadmap roundup. Do I want to go into this yet, or do we want to say a little bit about crafting? I guess there's a couple of thoughts that I had about crafting. The bit that stands out to me is the 1,000 quality. Because at the moment, from a crafting perspective, from an inventory management perspective, it's a really bad idea because basically I can have 1,000 different stacks of one material, and how many materials are we going to have in game, right? Theoretically speaking. And generally speaking, it's very hard to find two nodes of the same quality when you go through. So you are just picking up more and more and more different qualities of the same material. And I'm not entirely sure how much I enjoy that. The answer is probably not a lot, right? However, from a crafting perspective, that variance in quality and all that sort of stuff really does mean that there are going to be players out there who will pay top dollar to get the top crafted materials, who will then turn out some really good quality stuff, which means it's not just about can you find the blueprints for something. And once you've got the blueprints for something, you're on the same footing as everyone else. It also means that those organizations out there who want to specialize in the crafting of materials, or so the crafting of items, components, weapons, ships, that sort of stuff, and dedicate themselves to it, there is a clear advantage. Even when everyone's researched their blueprints to the top tier level 5 for ships, they are still going to be able to go, yeah, but hey, we turned out, we buy top dollar. We buy top quality materials at top dollar. And I think that sort of stuff actually is really nice, right? Is that crafting is not just a sub activity that you do in the game, right? A side activity. It's its own thing. And there's some real genuine advantage for the people who want to go down that rabbit hole, and the option for people to actually kind of make a name for themselves in crafting. I think that's cool. I really like that. Malemba, welcome in. Good to see you, buddy. So basically, the whole warranty insurance bid for purchase items, it's a good day to be Legatus. Yeah, possibly. They said you get it with pledge gear, but they walked it back since. I mean, I don't know. It might have been said at the Citizen Con that the thing is that's like a 20-minute section. So I don't really want to go through it. I'll see if I can find it. If I can find it, I'll post it up. Maybe even make a video about it. Because if they have walked back on it, that's worth talking about in a public forum. But I thought they had. I thought it might. In my head, Rich Tyra said it. So it might be in the final presentation. Cause I think he said something like, "Hey, how cool is the whole crafting thing?" And then he goes, "Oh, and by the way, yes, you get to keep the blueprints," or something like that. I think. But this is how it went in my head. Like I said, I'm probably just misremembering because there was the evidence in front of all of our eyes. But that in my head was what happened. So yeah, we'll see. Uh, so I think I found it. The only thing widget is I can't see links in chat. It won't allow it. You played Star Wars Galaxies, right? Getting perfect stats for the resources, there will be like the experimentation buffs. When we get core harvesters for mining ore, we'll have larger, abundant materials. You're right. I mean, and you'll get nodes, I think, of, yes, sure, there'll be varying qualities in it, but you'll get a lot more of each quality, hopefully, so that's kind of cool. Setting up a mineral harvester is how we get max amount, but mining ships will get resources faster. Yep. It favours the Mega Zerg sailors. They can throw 500 people at mining to grind the best stuff. Welcome to how. I guess that's welcome to life, right? I suspect refining will allow mixing all your quality and getting a composite. It's something I hope for. Arcade, yeah, we saw that in the previous thing. They talked about you can, if you've got like a couple of partial containers, you can combine them and it will share basically quality. So you'll lose your top end stuff, but it will bring everything else down. So, like, put a bunch of 750 in with a bunch of 250 and you'll have a box full of 500. So yeah, that's quite a nice idea. Player market is needed to socially 100%. Essential Access is one of the sitcom things, but it was in passing. Pretty sure it was one of the sit downs with Jared. I'll see if I can find it. So at that one, there wasn't a sit down with Jared. So at the one where they announced crafting, it was the 2-day one that was made to look like the Bengal. It was the same one as they did the Citizen Con gameplay. So there weren't sit downs with Jared. There was bits where he was walking around, and a couple of the community managers were walking, or the community facing people were walking around and doing all that sort of stuff. But there weren't sit down chats between him. That was the one where he ran on stage and hurt himself. You remember that? So yeah, it wasn't that sitcom. I'd rather the pledge guns and armor be blueprints than we need to work towards them, not just a pay to win. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure it's a pay to win. It depends how expensive they make the restoring to functionality, right? And Kasune, hello. I've definitely seen the video where they said you get the blueprints. Another CC posted the video, but I can't remember who. Content crazy, I mean, sorry. Catching up on myself. So there we go. The Megazergs have a problem. They need to back up the infrastructure to gather refineries and fabricators. Yeah, so I think that's the interesting thing, right? Is that if you have 500 people running around and doing the mining, you need to be able to pay them. And is the difference in buying a top end, because there'll be lots of people out here going, hey, I just keep running all my stuff into the ground, so I'm just going to buy tier 3 stuff as normal. I'm not going to buy a tier 5 every single time or whatever. So yeah, there we go. So in Discord budget says widget. Oh, okay, you sent me in there. Is that where he 42-24? Okay, stand by, mate. Just give me a second. I'm just going to transition over here so I don't do anything stupid.
Oh, so you get to have.
So 42-24, you reckon? Have a look. Okay, so this is the end. I'm going to transition over now. Whoop.
I'm always a big fan. I can't get it because Tom's in the way of some of the helmets that came out during my time there. So
I want to use my P8 in the PU. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I can't with Zach.
You're not the only one.
Many games, including Star Citizen, have gear for hot and cold environments. We talked about environmental armors earlier. However, has the team considered specialized clothing tailored to help in traversing places like jungles and swamps?
Is this what you meant?
Yes. All.
Next question.
He's on it.
Nailed it. They sound like humid locations, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else, what other challenges are in a jungle, right?
Oh, here we go.
Subscriber
42-24,
armor.
not 42-24.
When we lose it, do we use insurance or recraft a blueprint, and how does that work?
Are you looking at me?
I'm looking at
Seriously?
you. Yes. So with your subscriber armor, you do gain a blueprint when crafting is introduced into Star Citizen. I looked at you because we were talking about crafting, and I thought you might want to carry on that just for the record.
Nick's the one who's
It's a
going to get
controversial topic.
Yeah, I'm very nervous about the question. I want to get right. So when crafting comes into Star Citizen, you will receive a blueprint for your items that you've got, and you will be able, those unique items you will be able to craft again.
Okay. So for armor, then it looks like here you will get a blueprint. For ships, you won't. Which, yeah, fine. That's a thing, I guess. So yeah, getting armor but not ships. The org's going recruiting new players. Free game package for anyone willing to put in 24 hours of mining is going to be a big problem. But funny to see. I mean, what? 24 hours of mining isn't going to equate to 45 quid of effort for the org, right? I don't think it's, and in fact, it's not even going to be that, right? It's going to be more. It's going to be the Golem starter pack. So I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah. We don't currently, no. We don't currently get blueprints for gun and armor purchases in the store. But that's probably because half of the stuff that's purchased in the store isn't in the crafting system yet. So, for example, I got the medical armor, the medical Morozov armor. I don't think you can craft it. So, yeah. They may have changed direction too, you're right. I think they're going away from that. I think they're no longer be blueprints for anything on Predator, very possibly. So, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but that's still, you're still talking $40, $45 at the minute. Was the cheapest. It's not going to equate to real world money like that. Okay, Corner says I'd rather armor and weapons be skins, but then also you can straight purchase default gear, so skins wouldn't work there. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind them doing it. It's if all it is aesthetics, right? If you can still make equivalent medical gear, that's fine. If what it is aesthetics, then I have no problem. As long as my bought, Morozov medic armor doesn't equate to better than the highest crafted Morozov medical armor, then I'm a happy boy. But yeah, interesting. I've not really got into it that much for one reason or another, the crafting, but I'm looking forward to giving it a go. At the moment, kind of being able to craft FPS weapons and armor, I have so much right now that it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm not so much PvPing, so that those improvements are not necessarily like a competitive edge. You're still fighting AI. So for me, I'm looking forward to it. I'm liking the way the direction they're going with it. I just don't think that at the moment there's enough to drag me in. So there we go. But yeah, roadmap roundup. Okay, so this change was as of a couple of days ago, and this actually is quite interesting. Okay, so 4.7, we got everything in. We had the adult Valacar, okay, or the Valacar that came within QV breaker stations, which is interesting. I guess Valacar crunch through just pure rock now. But yeah, juvenile Valacar, they do it too, and then the Aurora stuff. What's quite interesting is I was thinking about this as I pulled everything up for the stream, ready to go for you guys today. I was like, hey, there's not really a storyline continuation. Like, we've got these breaker stations, but what the hell is happening with the Shattered Blade and the Vandal stuff up here? Okay, so Nyx Missions Pack 2, so this is after Welcome to Nyx, which is the Vandal stations, right, or the stations under a Vandal attack, excuse me, is coming in a point patch. So it is coming, it's now committed, but it's worth noting that that's happening. Okay, Alpha 4.8. There's a lot in here. It looks like our year of very, very good patches in terms of content are going to continue. So here's what we've got coming. Refueling missions. Implementing refueling missions centered on NPC ships. Players will also be able to request refueling via a beacon, which will initially be fulfilled by NPCs. Okay, which is interesting. NPC ships coming up to you now. NPC ships summonable on demand. It's an interesting idea. Implementing refueling and docking improvements, simplifying the refueling process. With, I get that word again, simplifies fuel delivery and updating docking to support mutual requests and automating docking at close range, alongside more impactful itemization for fuel capacity and transfer speeds. Whatever. Okay, but the good news is that they're going to choose that, and also the automatic docking, so you don't just keep stacking it or run out of fuel and just, there you go. Flight suits G-force resistance. Looks like the armor archetypes are coming in slowly. Ship hangar service tier 0, the vehicle command module. I'm sorry about the grin. For those that have seen the video, I'm just going to say this. Called it. I get to be smug once in a while when your predictions come to, right? I'm still reeling from the no Nyx thing. I'm back on my game, so there we go. Alpha Wolf is going to Wicklow, along with a couple of other bits, some upgraded components, that sort of stuff. Great. Wicklow's getting more things. And then the bit that kind of shocked me, it dropped off so long ago. We haven't seen it in quite a while, but you see it here first. The Ultiflex crossbow is coming in 4.7 tentatively. Sorry, 4.8 tentatively. Implementing the long-awaited crossbow, featuring a devastating, shattering bolt and harsh projectile drop. The Ultiflex crossbow rewards skilled aim with immense power. Its near-silent firing mechanism lets you strike quietly and gain the upper hand on your foes. So yeah, that's kind of cool. The plasma grenade, Castak Arms area denial grenade, prime and throw to lock down an area and prevent enemies from pushing through. So it sounds like plasma pool on the floor, very similar to the area of effect stuff that we've seen the Valacar drop. Oh, sorry, the Valacar. What's the one in ASD called? Oh my god, my brain. My brain's just gone, no, you're not having that word. What's it called? Help me out here. The one in ASD fires this plasma stuff. The Yolandi. Thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate that. So there you go. So the Yolandi, the Yomandi. There you go. The Yomandi fires this pulse plasma and it leaves this crap on the ground. Right? Sounds like that's exactly what the plasma grade's going to do. So if you know you're going to get rushed from a certain direction, you can put the plasma down, cause a bottleneck, cause them to stack up, then take them out with, sustained fire. That sort of stuff is really, really nice. And we heard about it all last year. they kept talking about it through all the bug fixes, and it finally looks like it's coming. Implementing the new transport system, a full rewrite of transit across the universe, supporting trams, trains, and elevators with improved reliability and scalability for technologies like server meshing and instancing. And I'm sorry, I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat as I'm reading this, because I can just see that the first implementation is going to be return to absolute elevator hell. Do we all remember? Do we all remember when elevators were the most dangerous things in Star Citizen? And I don't mean when people run into elevators and bump other people out of them. I mean the elevator itself. You could be on your own and walk, and the elevator would still find a way to kill you. Oh, good God. Like, it was mental. So I'm hoping that it's a nice, smooth implementation. Yeah. Yeah. And the Aegis Hammerhead coming up to gold standard. Exciting times for the Hammerhead cruise, of which I don't think there are many at the moment, but hopefully this will begin stuff coming back. I think one of the things we're getting is with the gravity generators finally being put in. All the components and stuff will be there as well. There's, access to it. So that'll be exciting. And then updated interior art. I think they're talking about the blast doors finally working as well, which would be kind of cool. So there we go. And then Maelstrom has been added to 1.0. Odd that it wasn't there. Maybe people just keep pointing that out. So there we go. So I think the key thing here is ship hangar services tier 0. Implementing service gameplay updates that draw from resources stored in your ship's cargo grid to fulfill refueling, repair, and restocking. So, interestingly, when they first started talking about this, they would only talk about refuel and restock. They wouldn't talk repair. They didn't mention it in that entire CitizenCon Direct. It was refuel and rearm. So now they are talking about it. But this is in preparation for the tactical strike groups, which, based on what Jared said, and in that video I covered this, that's coming in May as well. So 4.8 will be tactical strike groups. Looking very, very likely, which makes sense because the next stage of the story will be something that points us towards those big stations. With the captured Vandal weaponry and all that sort of stuff, which also means at that point we'll get the large Vandal ship. My Perseus is going to have a field day fighting that thing. I cannot wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, there we go. Space Saga says, I think this, as in the transport system, will actually improve the game far more than people think. I take it that's what you mean. So yeah, that. Magic squash boxes, Calgo. You are not wrong. We can call them runaway till the doors opens. We call them then runaway. Yeah, that. Well, that's probably it. They've been abused so much, the elevators are getting their revenge. So there we go. 50-50 where I want to go, or the void, says Widget. That, the amount of times I've ended up inside the station but floating around in EVA because of bloody elevators. Elevators are still the most dangerous thing, says Reebok. Lots of crush problems with that during 500 player meetup a week or so ago. I bet. People just running in and then pushing other people out or taking damage. Yeah, 100%. Would be nice to know if the hangar repair is limited or temporary, or just the new direction CIG's decided on. So it's going to be temporary, I think. Because they basically said that the first implementation of all this is just going to use the systems on the pads. And I get it. Why wait, right? Why would you wait to implement this stuff when you've got cool stuff that's waiting on it? Use that, and then later on, it does seem to suggest that refuel, rearm, and repair might very much come at the same time. I mean, I suppose they can just remove the ability for ships to do it as you bring in, for example, refueling. The refueling options no longer appear on a ship's one. But, it does seem to suggest that maybe it will come in at the same time. And vehicle command module coming in for the Caterpillar. And I'm just going to call it now. I think we're going to get in the Ironclad and the Ironclad Assault at ILW, which is kind of exciting. Crucible owners worry about in-hangar repair. I wouldn't, Parker, if I were you. I think this is just a step towards getting that sort of gameplay. It's just, for the moment, it's what they need to work tactical strike groups. And it will be phased out like anything, right? Just like at the moment, the intention is for our gear to stay locked to us, and then later on it will become lootable. So there we go. ESP being magic repair. Yeah, that. I've got my CCUs for the Ironclads account. Wait, just got to do a full chain. Well, that's the really interesting thing, of course, with the point patches that are coming, is coming next week. So, as in not next week, starting in 2 hours or so, but a week on Monday. We're expecting for the first of the point patches, which will contain the whole B, which is cool. That ship is, in my opinion, going to rocket up in price to sit somewhere that is more in tune with the amount of cargo that it can carry. So I think it's going to jump significantly over, for example, the Hermes. I think it's going to sit above that in price by some margin. So yeah, that's exciting stuff. Since you have to have the repair on the material on your cargo grid, I see repair, rearm, refuel being quite limited. So yeah, so the missile rearm stuff is already there, right? You can pop missiles on, just like you can load torpedoes into the stuff. People just don't, because it's easy to do it during the hangar stuff. They've indicated quite significantly, I think, that unless you're doing that in your hangar, that's always been the intent on ships and stuff, that we do that. And everything that I've seen them release confirms that, from the bloody Liberator all the way through to the Crucible to the Kraken. Everything that they've released with the idea of having ships on, and even the Polaris recently, right? Those having the lifts from the cargo bay up into the hangar, they serve no purpose unless you're moving cargo up and down. Why would you move cargo up there? Well, there are very few cargo ships that fit in that hangar. It's to move components backward and forth. It's to move fuel trolleys back and forth, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's stuff you can take to the bank, mate. To be honest, I wouldn't fret about it now. Just give it a while. Since you have to have them, sorry, yep, I responded to that. I'm super excited for my Ironclad. I can live up my Firefly universe. So yeah. That and the changes with crafting have reduced the need, value in repairing ships. The opposite. They've said that ships are going to degrade over time and need repairing. That increases, doesn't decrease the need for repair. If they're telling you that something's going to need repairing, how does that decrease the need for repairing? Right, we've already made the statement that, the whole point is to keep people have their ships running, as opposed to just claim and move on. Repair's gonna be just as vital as ever, and if anything, more so than the initial kind of plan entails, because there was no crafting, so there was going to be no degradation of stuff. I like them to have proper refueling hoses and just get rid of the mobiglass, repair, refuel your arms, so you have to do it manually. That's the way they're going to go, Reebok, is my expectation. Not so much in major landing zones and station hangars, because that will be done for you. But, it's the difference between taking your camper van and having, the spare parts and the tyres and stuff and whatever else. You take the kit yourself because you need to do it yourself. Whereas you pull up at a garage, you don't need a fuel can, because they'll just pump it direct from the pump into your ship and into your car. Same ships and hangars and stations. So there we go. I have a CCU from the Caterpillar to the Ironclad, so I'm a bit nervous about using it. Since they both use the same command module, I'm leaning towards a waiting game. Yeah, I just, like anything, Malemba, just wait until it comes out. You've done the important bit, right? Which is, because you have that CCU, you don't have to worry about it going up in price, because you locked it in at the price it was when you bought it, however you achieved that, right? So you're fine. Just wait for it to come out. There'll be loads of people with them. The Ironclad was incredibly popular. Get hold of someone's one, take it for a spin, load it up with a bunch of stuff, do some cart hauling missions in it, feel how, just to feel, even if that's not what you're doing with it, just to feel what it's like to load it up, unload it, fly it, move around in it, live in it, that sort of stuff. If you like it, keep it, and if you don't, hey, you've got whatever money you poured into that CCU in store credit. So it's a win-win. Not there's a wear out mechanic after it's worn, ditch and craft a new one. It's how plenty of other games with the same systems have gone. Yeah, I mean, in every Tarkov round I've ever seen anyone stream, they've repaired their gun every single time they've used it. Just saying. They're going to repair it. Right? I need a Caterpillar CCU, since it's going to get modules and a rework at some point. The Caterpillar's really interesting. I hope they really lean into. I get that you might not be able to buy them. I guess you could, but they could sell them on the pledge store. There's no reason they couldn't. But I like the idea that later on down the line, the Caterpillar gets some really dodgy modules, like a drugs lab module, and a chop shop module, right? Where if you're going to bring a ship in, even if you just pull up alongside, maybe it does something like the serial numbers. It changes the external serial number and stuff like that. That sort of stuff would be really cool, right? Just really dodgy, scary, like a shielded cargo bay that allows you to put a couple of SCUs into it. Not huge amounts, but that is shielded from scans, so don't show up when people scan you. Max one per ship or whatever. That sort of stuff would be very, very cool. I'm really hoping that that'll be that. See if your catapult module will dock on the iCloud. I wonder if that'll work. Possibly. Organ harvesting modules for the Caterpillar. I mean, we're getting pretty dark now, but yes, that sort of thing. Maybe not quite that extreme, but there we go. So yeah. Honestly, why have Caterpillar modules when the Kraken already has hangers which would work for that chop shop gameplay, etc.? Because not everyone should have to pay the price of a Kraken to have access to that gameplay. And yeah, I'll fight anyone that suggests that to have access to that gameplay you should have to pay that amount of money. That's a shitty idea. So yeah. There we go. So there was something else in that video, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was, but I wrote something else in the video. It's still quite chilly in here, I wrote something else for that video, and it was something else coming that I thought was coming in May, and I can't remember what it was. But I'll figure it out. I'll go and have a look in a bit. But yes, there we go. So there we go. Well, that's not what I said, was it? I didn't say illegal salvage. I said the ability to change fucking serial numbers. Yeah, chop shop isn't illegal salvage. A chop shop is making cars seem like they are what they aren't. Fabrication module, possibly. Yeah. Med gel fabrication module. Yes. So what's really interesting is I've started to see now, if you look in a lot of ships, I first noticed this with the Aurora, although this might have been somewhere, this might have been visual in a couple of other ships beforehand. There is a life support module in there that you can't remove. It's just like it's placeholder and a placeholder graphics, but it looks like you should be able to remove it. And if you actually go up and hold F, you can see that there's a canister in the middle, circular canister, that you can kind of, as you hold F, as if to interact with it, it highlights, but it highlights like it's just too far away and you're not close enough. And I've not been able to do anything with it, but very clearly it's meant to be removed. And I think that's going to be like the med gel is to the med beds. I think we're getting life support, some sort of life support core or consumable material that goes into life support generators or life support systems. And obviously that will be something that it will be a money drain either because we have to build it or craft it or both. So there we go. I still think the fabricator should turn bodies into med gel and food gel we're getting really dark now. I'm going to move on. But there we go. What's really interesting here is you've got the first day of the sale, which ended up being $1.5 million over that day. The following day, still pretty good. It looks like just under 1.2 mil. And then even then, the following days, it'll be interesting to see with payday in the UK on Tuesday, whether or not like it goes up again because it's the end of the month and maybe people waiting for that sort of stuff. But not a bad set of sales at all. And if you remember last Sunday, we had a look at the funding dashboard, and I said that they were going to need to have a pretty good day in order to be able to catch up. Now they haven't caught up with February last year. You can see here, if I can click, you gonna let me click it? Oh no, it's still trying to load whatever it's doing. Interesting. It's having a moment. It's not done this before. There we go. So you can see from the last February there was 10,049,307. At the moment we are only 8,639,000, but still a very good February. I guess they could make. I think it'll become their second best February to date, right? Sorry, March. Why am I saying February? Derp. But you see what I mean, right? Is that you've got this one here, which is 8,964,000. They should be there. If we go back to the previous ones, just having a look at, they made that amount of money yesterday in order to bust that limit. So for Monday and Tuesday, and of course this hasn't actually updated to reflect today's either. I think they're going to be there, no problem. I think on Tuesday is going to be drop another flash sale, like the Origin one for another manufacturer. Interesting. What makes you think that? I feel like we've discussed filters. Yes, filters. Yeah, that's the one. So yeah. So that's kind of cool. And then obviously filters will need to be replaced and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. And we're coming up on 1 billion scarily quickly. From some interesting fans, I found on scraping the website they made some changes. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, so interestingly, they've kind of got those war bonds, right? Let's go back to the original. Here we go. So they've got those war bonds. The Alpha Wolf might be quite popular, but obviously it was fairly recent. So there's not going to be a massive amount of new players between the Alpha Wolf then and now. Prospector, people might be seeing that, especially with crafting. That might be a nice place to go, but there is the much more accessible Golem that sits in that band now. I've got the Prospector, but I bought it in game. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have a look at it. Maybe I won't. We'll see. And then the Valkyrie. Yeah, the Valkyrie's popular. What the Valkyrie really does well is it sits in quite a nice price band, right? So you can jump up to the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is often a very nice stepping stone onto other ships in the CCU chain. So it can be worth looking at the Valkyrie just for that sort of stuff. L22, I missed IE, so needed it. The Valkyrie is very important for the future Galaxy owners who CCU'd. Yes. That. So yeah. Interesting. Really interesting. I think for the Mark II, I mean, should we do some quick voodoo math? What do you reckon? Should we do some calculator stuff? Sorry, I'm trying to do that off the screen, and then I clicked that and it came on the screen, and that's just not very helpful. But let's do some very quick calculator math. I'm interested. All right, I'm interested to see where this lands. So here we go. So let's go back to just for a moment. Let's go back to the funding bit. Okay, so we're talking 1.5 mil. We don't want to do the point, do we? Oh, boo. 1,500,000 plus. What do we say the other one? Let's go conservative. 1.1 mil, which was that day. What are we saying here? About 500,000 plus 500,000 Now, I know it's not going to work out quite like this, because you know what I'm going to do next, right? And then maybe 400,000, right? There's 3.5 mil over the last couple of days, right? In terms of dollars. And then we're going to divide them. Should we do the war bond price or the CCU price? Let's do war bond, assuming, because this is new money, right? This isn't trades. So people have gone for the war bond price because it's new money. So let's go $40, right? Divided by 40. How many Auroras might they have sold for that? I know it's not the only thing they're selling. I get it, but this is fun. And because the ship and the was it $55 for the war bond, was it? I thought it was cheaper than that, or maybe that was pounds, right? So what do we say? 3.5 mil. So 3.5 mil. That might have been pounds, you're right. So $55. I mean, but still 63,600 Auroras. Holy shit. Yeah, maybe some modules factor into that as well. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Yeah. Yeah, and that's it, right? Without the one with so it was 45. Yeah, that's what I thought. So the modules is what people are getting it, since it gives you 2 skins of both modules. Yeah, so it gave you 2 skins, although you got the iridescent skin, whatever that one's called, anyway, for anything that gets bought with new money. Or any Aurora that gets bought with new money. So let's go back to that again. So if we go up to the future, there's a bit up here. Bom bom bom. Where are we? Where are you? Skins bit. Here you go. Limited edition paint offer. For a limited time, get the Shiro Scale paint free in Aurora Mark 2 War Bond pledges, or available separately. So any Aurora Mark 2 bought with War Bond, this. Hello, Rusty. Welcome in, buddy. Half of those are panic Auroras buying those as LTI tokens. I don't think they are at all. I think we know that the UTV is coming, right? Just buy the UTV. That's going to be a War Bond token. I bought the Mark 1 Legacy Pack, 6 Auroras. I couldn't help it. FOMO got me. Zavath, do we need to stage an intervention there, my friend? That's a little bit scary. Yeah. So, I mean, this is this sort of stuff. There's one thing we haven't covered yet, right? Massively. And that's the inventory system. So I guess what I could do is go back to the inventory stuff. And I think there's only one page of it on here somewhere. Here we go. So yeah. The more I use it, the more I'm finding it easy to use, and that's a fairly obvious statement to make, right? Because anything that you use for a longer time becomes easier to use over time through familiarity. There are a couple of problems I have with this. It seems to have caused some issues with people getting stuff transferred over. I've had gradually more and more stuff appear back in my inventory than the first day when I went in, when I thought I'd lost a huge amount of my armor, including my entire ASD Geist set. I was very upset. But it's all right. It's reappeared, so it's okay. So there's that. The second part that I'm not sure of is on the previous inventory system. Everything was accessible on my character through one screen. Right? This bit here. Whereas here, the difference between utility and weapons, I actually have to go through extra steps to access the same stuff that I wanted to before. So if you're on the weapon screen, for example, and you want to load up a multi-tool, you've then got to come down to this utility tab, which is this bit down here, right? And go and add those bits as well. And that's a little bit faffy. It's also a little bit weird now. I know it's muscle memory more than anything else, but not being able to go and just grab the helmet and drag it across is a little bit frustrating. I'm actually now having to grab that and drag it across, and that's kind of weird. I just think they should still have the click it once to equip it, shift click to move it into your inventory and that sort of stuff. The equipping it from the local inventory is not great, or is not present, so it's not particularly easy to do. Inventory backend is still not up to snuff, says Socially. Yeah, there's a couple other bits. Making this stuff smaller has just made it harder to see, and the idea that they've still made it 3D rendered models in there is just pointless. Not even Tarkov does that. It doesn't need to be the full model in there. We're not moving it around. If you want to do that, do what Tarkov did, which is click on the image, open up a separate window with all the stats in there anyway, like the stats of the crafting gun and all that sort of stuff, and then in there manipulate the model and move it around, right? And see an actual rendered model, just like you do in Tarkov. I don't understand this obsession with having it all rendered on my inventory screen. A picture will be fine. It doesn't need to be that kind of mental. But there we go. It does make it a little bit harder to find, although I'm really pleased to see that now just mousing over stuff tells me what it is rather than mousing it over once and then that bloody window being stuck there. The other thing that's really cool, if you are someone who's using VR, the old inventory system in VR was awful. This one works. It looks like that in inventory. Where the other one was compacted to the same side as the UI, this system actually just looks full in your VR headset, which is great. So I'm pleased that that works. So yeah. Well, I don't know where the back end is dying bits come from. So it's like I say, it's been buttery smooth the last couple of days. It's been really impressive. I'm not expecting that to last, but then again, we're getting point patches, so it's only going to last 2 weeks. AMD is also getting a new promo chip for their upcoming GPU, but it got leaked by the Wiki CIG run. Well, they updated saying they worked with Anvil. Interesting. Okay. I guess keep your eyes out for a new GPU if you want that chip. It's quicker to equip change multi-tool by pressing J and doing it in the game. Yeah, but what I mean is in terms of if I'm putting a multi-tool on my suit from the inventory, I've now got to go and do this here. So if I'm looting that from there, when it comes to equipping it, I drag it from here across. Anything in these slots are, it's either this or it's your weapons, right? So if I want to drag a weapon now into one of the slots, I've got to click that extra window to go back. One cool thing with the new inventory system is you can put a helmet on your hip and equip another. Yes, I saw that. I saw one of us at Rockbreaker was doing it running around. I only unfortunately saw it right at the end, so the helmet that I dropped that I wanted, I didn't make it out with. But it is a nice touch, so that's kind of cool. So yeah. Yeah, so it takes a while to load it all up because it's doing an area check, I think. So there's been a lot of times in the inventory, but I don't think that equates to back-end dying. That just takes a while to populate, right? They're doing an event next month with AMD, I believe. Interesting. Well, I'll keep an eye out for that. And obviously, if big stuff like that comes, then I'll talk about it as it happens. So that's been really interesting. I've got to say, I've spent more time, and I know I've said this before, guys, and I'm not repeating myself, although it's going to sound like I am. Right. I am repeating myself. I'm not saying the same thing twice. Right? So I'm repeating the words. I've played more this weekend than I have in a long time. Right? I compare that back to ASD. When ASD happened, I really enjoyed running around ASD. This weekend, what's been really interesting is all I've done is hand mining salvage. I've done a couple of combat bits in and around ASD and the UGF, and I've really enjoyed it. I've been using a VR quite a bit this weekend. I haven't thrown up, which is a win. I haven't been ill. I haven't felt ill, which is quite surprising. More on that later on. In a couple of weeks, we'll be talking about that. Yeah, really, really quite surprised and happy with where the game is at the moment. Having this rock location just added is just chef's kiss. And we've got the extra stuff coming. We've got the extra missions that are going to take us to these locations, not to do the huge event, but to do missions that you'll be able to solo and still be able to get some of the new loot and all that sort of stuff. I've already picked up one of the white face helmets, one of the white and red face helmets. There's also masks of the same type you can pick up. There's armor, there's clothing there. There's a lot of good stuff to have fun with. Yeah, it's really interesting. And you can just see them build on these systems, like the ability to maneuver stuff around, the physical problem solving, the puzzles. There's, like I say, fabrication in there. They've done a really good job, and I'm impressed. If it's the VR I'm thinking of, I'm jealous socially. It's sat right there, but I'm not going to show it yet. It is sat right next to me, and funny enough, when I finish the stream, I'm going to go put it straight back on again. It might well be. Yeah, if the first part of it sounds like food, then yes, that's what it is, mate. But I'm looking forward to bringing that to you guys, because I'm working with them. This isn't something I bought. This is something I've been sent. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, pricing will be interesting too. Oh, sorry. Bolter released new GPUs with the current silicon shortage. I mean, they're going to keep doing it, right? AMD and Intel are going to keep, or sorry, Intel, Nvidia. I know Intel are doing their own as well, but AMD and Nvidia are going to keep doing it. Make some money. So there we go. Yeah, I'm impressed with where the game going, because what I'm doing is I'm looking at the point patches and going, okay, we've got the next Welcome to Nick stuff, and I want to know where that story goes. I want to know what happens with the Shadow Blade and the Vandal, because I think this is working up to, like I've said, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year if we have Vandal NPCs in the game. That may well coincide with the Squadron 42 thing, right? Just guessing. This isn't insider information. I'm just guessing, but I think it's likely, right? As in, I think it's likely that when Squadron 42 comes, there'll be Vandal in the verse around about the same time. I'm not saying that I think it's likely that Squadron 42 is coming this year. It's worryingly quiet on that front. However, then we go into the instancing. Sorry, no, we don't. We go into tactical strike groups, and a genuine reason to coordinate between capital ships, fighter groups, and ground parties, which is just chef's kiss. And then we're into instancing Siege of Orison, potentially the municipal works. We might get them at the same time. Don't know. But yeah, just if all we get is Siege, I will be a happy boy, because Siege is a lot of fun. And oh my god, with instancing, it's going to be incredible. I'm really, really looking forward to that. So, Widget, you have no idea. It's a lot of fun. So yeah. I'm not going to go any further into the AMD Intel stuff at the moment, just because corporateness bores me. So yeah, there we are. That's 4.7. I'm really impressed with the patch. I'm going to do one last thing to kind of sign us off here. I'm going to ask you guys what you think, and we'll do that on a poll. So how was 4.7 for you? Let's go. Great. Okay, and then we'll go not good. There we go. Let's see, and let's see what people say. If you've not played it yet, it's fine. You don't have to answer. I'd just be really interested to see what people think. But yeah, I'm really quite taken with it, I think, myself. I think there's a stability that seems to be underpinning it at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. So yeah. Should have had a not played option. Well, I'm writing it out. The not played option will be the people that don't answer. So there. Okay. So I'm going to hit end there. It's been up for a little while now. So there we go. We have on that poll 47 say great, 47 say okay, and 6% say not good. 15 votes out of the room. So yeah, that's about a third of us. So yeah. So tell first VR run around ship and into it. How was it? I'm not going to spoil too much of the video. I feel like I've answered how much I'm enjoying VR by the fact that I've basically spent the entire weekend with the headset strapped to my face. So there we go. Story takes us to Castra at the end of the year. Wager ? So I'm not going to wager on this. Seeing as CIG brought in a system that was basically a major landing zone, an asteroid in an asteroid field, I'm not going to take that wager. They basically didn't bring in what I thought they were going to do with Nyx, which is because they'd had so long to build Pyro out, they didn't have to worry about building it piece by piece because they had all the time to do that beforehand. So by the time server meshing was actually ready to go, they were like, Pyro's complete. Like, the only thing we don't have in Pyro right now is they've scaled it down a little bit, and we don't have the pulse from the star. That's it. That's pretty much all we don't have over there right now. And then other things will be added, obviously, as we go on. I had foolishly assumed that if they were going to introduce Nyx, they were going to do the same thing, and they didn't. And that's okay, but if basically turning around and going, hey, you have Castra in the game, is simply a star and a single planet, then, yeah, sure, they could do that at the end of the year. My question would be, why do they want to? What does Castra give us that Nyx and Stanton and Pyro doesn't have? I don't think there's much of a rush for that anymore, because people will be going, well, they need to build it all in by the end of 1.0. Yeah, that's how far I think 1.0 is away, right? I think we've still got an awful, well, it's not I think, I know we've got an awful lot of time before we go to that. So, there we go. I've tried a little bit, but I haven't really had time to dive into it properly. Like I said, if you want an opportunity to see what I'm talking about, and I'm hoping the servers prove me right, we'd love to have you guys Friday next week at 9 p.m. UK time. Come join us, have a muck around in the game, see what you think. But I would love to see you guys there. It would be great to kind of see everyone and do Rock Breaker and whatever else we felt the need to do. Maybe the Welcome to Nyx mission in time for the Nyx 2 stuff to launch the following week. So we can certainly do some of that stuff. Chris says 2028 for 1.0. So I don't know where that's come from. That's a really dodgy statement. There was a statement in a French-Canadian newspaper that said that they were aiming for 2028, but didn't attribute that to anyone. That wasn't a quote. They just said they were aiming for 2028. If that's the source you're thinking of, it didn't say. It wasn't like Robert says he's aiming for. It just says CIG's aiming for 2028, and no one else has reported it. It's just this one French-Canadian newspaper that was talking about the purchase of Turbulent. So it's a bit. I would take that with as much salt as you can manage. I mean, the pulsing star and Philo was fine while they had it. I don't know why they took it out. They act like having difficulty or limitations is a taboo. 100%. There's definitely a dumbing down of things at the moment. We can only hope that later on, once there's enough stuff to keep everyone engaged, that they can start ramping the difficulty, including making things a little bit more adult, a little bit more involved. But having said that, maybe that's not the greatest idea. It still takes a ridiculous amount of time to get people into the same place and do the same and do something together. So maybe it doesn't need to be more time consuming, I don't know. The statement that comes out 2028, it says that Chris said, yeah, I don't know how old that is. I would throw that. I mean, all you've got to do, Reebok, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just some creator spouting out, is go and have a look at the 1.0 release card. Look at everything on it, and then just divide that by the amount of months that we have between now and the end of 2028, and look at how quickly those features would have to come. You'd basically need to, I think, tick off one of those cards like every 2-3 months from here till the end, and I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I mean, maybe what they're doing with Nyx, just while we're here. I know we're overrunning slightly. Don't worry, I'm almost there. But maybe what they're doing with Nyx is maybe it will be built by the end of the year, right? So the November patch, because wasn't it November we got Nyx last year? Because it was just after CitizenCon, right? And CitizenCon was October. So maybe they say, they said, hey, we released 2 systems in a year, and then what they say this year is, hey, we built Nyx in a year. So you had it in November, and then within a year we brought it all into the verse. Not built it, obviously it's been longer than that. Maybe that's what they're after. I don't know. So yeah. Yeah, we'll see. But there we go. So yeah, 4.7. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing what comes out. And obviously, if I can, although I have a sneaking suspicion that when the whole B comes out, I will be with family for Easter. So I have a funny feeling I might not be around. But we'll see. We'll see how the plans go. These things always change, especially where I'm involved. So yeah, we'll hopefully we'll be around. If I am around and I am able to, I will absolutely live stream the whole Nyx thing. Sorry, the whole B thing. I've got Nyx on the brain now. So yeah, that'll be good. Whole B comes out. The Hull A increase is sure to follow. So yes, didn't the Hull A go up? No, it was the Raft that went up, right? Yeah, because they said Hull A, Hull B, Raft, and Raylan were all going up in price. That was the stuff at IE last year. So there we go. I think they actually announced it last year, Cam. They actually announced that the Hull A was going to go up in price. Because I thought about it and then I shit-canned it. But yes, right. There we are then. Yeah, it's been really interesting putting this together. I am rarely this excited to kind of put together stuff for a stream because of the content itself and just what's going on in the game. But I've really enjoyed the last couple of days. It's been something else entirely. So hopefully you guys are finding similar enjoyment. Yeah. So Aurora video as soon as I can, and then keep your eyes glued to the screens. There will be some VR stuff coming in the fairly near future, and something you will not want to miss, especially not if you are brand new to the field of VR, as I was when I started this journey. If you are unsure whether or not VR is worth it, if at all, let alone for the system hog that is Star Citizen, then that video is 100% for you, because that's how I approached it, because those are all the questions I had to answer for myself. So maybe, just maybe, I have some answers for you. And of course, because the headset was sent to me, there'll be a deal in it for you if you decide to go that way. But please, 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 make your mind up as you go along. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon. You pause while I find the end screen.